Hey, guten Tag, guten Nacht. Welcome to the Irish NFL show, Week 10 review. It's Monday night and it's the day after the Munich game. Michael McQuinn, Colin Cronin, Brian O'Leary, Amit, Mark, Aloysius Cockerell as well. We've got a full house here tonight. We're going to break down Week 10. We're only on YouTube, so a special warm welcome if you are on Das YouTube, and a special welcome if you're in on the podcast. Colin, first off, speaking Sie Deutsch?
Well,
Sprechen.
Sprechen. I Fortunately, I didn't have to. I got to enjoy it from the comfort of my living room, but from even the living room, it was the atmosphere was obvious. I don't think that should be a surprise. I think if anyone is surprised, you haven't been paying any attention to Germany, because this is a country that gets 30,000 people plus at semi-professional games. Long overdue, and I think the NFL hopefully have realized the appetite for the game, not just in the UK and Germany, but throughout Europe and I think probably throughout the world. Obviously, the top I'm wearing tonight will have games in the Azteca when it is redeveloped, but we know obviously the appetite in Mexico. And when we had Henry Hodgson on with us, he talked about Brazil and the appetite that there is in that country. So great to see. Intrigued to hear from the two of you who were there, but certainly it was a spectacular venue and a spectacular atmosphere.
Not to be the guy, Brian, to bring everybody down that didn't go to the game. I mean, there's loads of lads from Ireland that were on the flight this morning, ones that met in hotels last night, that weren't even at the game. They were just in the pub watching it in Munich. So I don't want to be that guy to bring it down. For Colin or Mark, for example, that was better than the Super Bowl. Would you agree with that, or do you think I'm crazy? I thought it was by far better than the Super Bowl. It's probably the best atmosphere I've ever been at, including the soccer game or GA game or rugby game.
I would say it was a bigger occasion than a Super Bowl, even though that sounds a bit weird because of the importance of making sure that the event went off in the manner in which the NFL would have wanted, with what looks like already being suggested over the past 48 hours is that they're looking to confirm additional games potentially in Germany over the coming years. Seems to be something going around about Roger Goodell on the social media the weekend that he's keen to give a commitment to more games in Germany. I think having been there yesterday and witnessed what we did, and I thought we got a good game as well. In fairness, let's not forget why we were there. We were there to watch cover a big game within the league and two teams that are coming into it in different situations. I would recognise how it felt to be there yesterday in terms of like what it was like when we first went to London and the Giants played the Dolphins, and then the following year was the Chargers and the Saints. You kind of got the feel yesterday this was a really big occasion, and it certainly lived up to the billing. And yeah, it was fantastic. As an NFL fan, it was fantastic to be there.
Mark, did you get a chance to watch it, Mitt, or see any of the reaction this morning?
Man, I did, and you always knew the first game in Germany was going to be huge. The German NFL fan base is massive all across Central Europe, of course, continental Europe. A lot of them travel to the London games, but having one on home soil is different gravy. And yeah, I mean, you just look at the clips of Sweet Caroline, Country Roads being played, the fans staying for an hour after the game, just watching Red Zone and enjoying and reveling in the atmosphere. Unbelievable. I mean, you got to remember as well the significance of this in some respects. The Bundesliga are cooperating and collaborating quite strongly with the NFL. They're sharing information on next generation analytics, even when the NFL is planning for future German games, in further years. They're trying to plan it so that it doesn't impinge upon Bundesliga weeks, and they've been very mindful of their scheduling. There's a close collaboration, to say the least. But even you think about the impact on Munich, this was the first ever non-football event in the history of the 17-year history. It's not the oldest stadium of the Allianz Arena. And that's because when it was constructed, it was done so with the express permission by the city of Munich to be used for football because they contributed to the cost of it with Bayern Munich. So to say that Germany's leaning into the NFL, to say the city's leaning in, would be putting it mildly. I mean, by contrast, you think of Colin's wearing the Mexico jersey. One of the biggest games in Levi Stadium history was actually Ireland versus Mexico in a soccer match. Like, American football stadiums are naturally more multi-purpose, not as much in Germany. They know how big a deal this was. The comments by Goodell were obvious. I think I've said many moons ago, you look at NFL Europe, and you look at these things. Once the NFL cottons on to the capabilities and the market in Germany, it will be, wir sprechen Deutsch, wir sprechen NFL. Das ist sehr gut in Deutschland, yeah? And they will make money, they will be there. And hey, I think I sent out a message to you guys. 2028, there'll be as many, if not more, games in Germany than there are in the UK. It's my bet.
2028, in my opinion, will be London, Germany, Spain, France, and Ireland. One off.
From your lips to God's ears, Michael. From
my lips to God's ears. I wanted to just, for people that are listening to this podcast, especially, paint a picture here very quickly because I know we have games to talk about. On Friday night, there was a podcast sold out in an arena of 7,000 people. On Saturday night, there was a 15,000 person street party for a television channel that shows the NFL in Germany. And on Sunday, there were 6,000 people that were watching Red Zone and the German game in an arena. I look forward, please. I'd love to see London try and replicate that. You had different team bars for the marketing and things as well. And our guy Jan Stecker, who was on the show last year, came out to an R&B beat and rapped it, which I'll try and put up on social media tomorrow. But it was just unreal. Colin, I mean, the game itself, let's jump into it. It was entertaining. It was all right. I mean, the crowd made the game. The Seahawks didn't turn up. Is that fair to say? They turned up towards the end. But Geno Smith was very, very disappointing. Very disappointing. Now, the Bucs actually rolled in 2 hours later than scheduled. They were late for training. Seahawks got in the day before. They don't seem to have acclimatized themselves, even though they're used to flying 4, 5, 6 hours across the US to different games. For example, playing the Giants or the Jets in New Jersey.
Well, hopefully this finally puts to bed this, they got in early stuff. That seems to be a debate that this makes any sort of difference. It does not. Whether a team arrives early, a team arrives late, it doesn't make a difference. It's about showing up on the field, which might be the one downside of the entire weekend was just how bad the pitch was. My goodness. And I know both bad for both teams, and in fairness, both teams acknowledged it. And it had nothing to do with the reason the Bucs won. You are absolutely correct. The Seahawks basically didn't show up until the fourth quarter. It was all about the Bucs, and they could get away with one of the worst trick plays that you're likely to see with Leonard Fournette trying to throw to 45-year-old Tom Brady. And Tommy, being a little bit, it's obviously something one learns in New England, because kicking out at we've seen Mac Jones do that. So that was entertaining. Look, it was all about the Bucs. There seems to be a lot of hype today that they are back off the back of White having 105 yards on the ground and Linney having 50. People thinking that this is it. We talked about it on the show weeks ago. It won't matter like how they play, because Tom Brady is going to the playoffs. I would have to say, come the playoffs, the NFC is so bad they could do, but I'm not convinced that this Bucs team are really back to where they were 2 years ago. I think they can take advantage of a really poor NFC. And for the Seahawks, I think their biggest issue is the amount of time. Like watching it yesterday on TV, the amount of time Brady had to throw was ridiculous. And that is a piece that the Seahawks need to work on, because they just do not get pressure. Anyone can have a bad day. It'll be interesting to see how the Seahawks bounce back from this.
I was quite impressed with the Bucs offensively yesterday. We've been talking, I think Colin's alluded to in terms of the rush yards, but we saw White, and we spoke about him in the preseason show, coming out of Arizona State. We felt he'd be like a real kind of game changer, that they'd have a really effective run game. We saw from him yesterday, really good. Brady only had 6 incomplete passes in the entirety of the game. I thought, yeah, you're right, he got lots of time in the pocket. I think he looked quite sharp yesterday. I think some of his passes were really accurate on board, and it To me, he looked better than I expected, because we've been quite critical of, and what you saw of how they played, even last week's Rams game. The fourth quarter, look, the Seahawks rallied, but ultimately when it came down to that last drive, the Bucks, comfortably, I would say, found a way to go up and down the field and kill the clock. They had 25 plays in the fourth quarter of the Bucks offense, and they had 10 first downs. They were a lot more efficient, and the Seahawks defense was on the field for 37 minutes of the entirety of the game. That says it all. So I thought they looked a lot better than I expected. Obviously, we all picked the Seahawks, which obviously goes by the rule that when we all pick the same team, usually that team loses. But I thought it was a really comfortable day for the Bucks overall.
Well, the thing that throws it up, Brian, is and to both your points, they found a running game. Like, the Bucks' running game this season has been historically bad. They aren't just ranked 32nd in the league. Their average per attempt is one of the worst in NFL history. And for once, Rashad White, whether it was the spark provided by him, whether the linemen just bust the holes open a bit more, but I think a lot of credit has to go to White, gave them a threat in the running game, which in turn opens up play action, in turn opened up the seams for Tom Brady to exploit linebackers on, and makes, in one foul swoop, the Bucs offense look far more impressive. But for me, actually, I wasn't as harsh on Geno Smith. I thought, again, his decision-making wasn't bad. He didn't make silly mistakes. Some of the velocity and decision-making on his throws actually was impressive. It's just his receivers dropped the ball, because, in fairness, what really happened to me was that the Bucs defense was fired up. They were obviously being motivated, led by Devin White, even after the sad passing of his father there on Thursday. He still made the trip over, still competing in the game. And there seemed to be a lot of emotion, a lot of passion, obviously coming from that Bucs defense, who, to be fair, has not been except for one game, has not been the failing point of this team this year. The offense still has not been clicking. Even still, with a improved offensive performance, we're talking about them scoring 21 points. We're not talking about the offensive output that we've seen in the last couple of years. So definitely room for improvement before they can go to any meaningful consideration of postseason success.
Yeah, and big shout out to Brian for getting the question in, the big Tommy last night as well. Good crack. Let's wrap this Germany chat up for the first segment in the podcast with one question. Driving out to the airport this morning, €104 for a taxi. I'd like to thank Aer Lingus for not informing us that it takes 2 hours. I'm not even lying, Brian. I can tell you what, I'll send you the receipt and we'll go 4 ways for your lad, Mike. Yeah. Anywho, I'm home now. Yeah, I'm a Celebrities on. I'm actually surprised Brian and Mark are on, because I thought their wives had wanted to watch it. However, the fire's on as well. I was driving out to the airport and there was a massive billboard saying "coming soon," and it was Travis Kelce, and I just let a big laugh out in the taxi. Taximan thought I was losing the head. What's going on there? Nothing's being announced, but anywho, the whispers. There may be whispers, obviously, that there could be 2 games in Germany. Are we all going next year, boys? If there's 2 games, yeah, 9. That's
I think it's a given. I think it's a given, Michael. I just want to make one point.
Will we all actually sit on a computer when the tickets go on sale with a 4-in-1 chance of maybe getting tickets? That could be a good idea this year, because if Patrick Mahomes is going.
Well, Michael, you kind of alluded to the rumours already, because of Roger Goodell's comments the other day, are that there may be 2 Germany games next year, all to be confirmed. There's a lot of outlets reporting that both the Kansas City Chiefs and the New England Patriots are interested in a game in Germany. Remember, the AFC has 9 home games next year, so it will be an AFC team, likely giving up a home game as part of that international series. And the reality is, of course, that the New England Patriots and Kansas City Chiefs, both, certainly the Patriots do, I'm pretty certain the Chiefs do as well, have Germany as part of their marketing area. So they're keen in many respects to get over. So it could be the case that we have Munich and Frankfurt to look forward to. And then the question is, do we go to both?
Yeah, I think it's going to be both. I think it'll be Munich and Frankfurt. And we're not going to talk about it again until the games are announced, but I think it'll be both.
I'm conscious we've got a lot of other games to discuss, so
yeah, we do.
When we move on, I just want one final point just on Munich itself. And it was a common theme, speaking to people who in the airport this morning and yesterday, who even guys who weren't at the game. The reason I felt the atmosphere was so electric throughout the course of the weekend, and you were there obviously a lot earlier than me, Michael, was Munich itself, in terms of the area, it's all kind of in one, general area of maybe 2 miles, where all the kind of people are enjoying themselves and socialising. Where in London, There's so many different outlets to go to, and it's a bit of a disconnect. Even the day we were there for the Packers game, there was 3 Premiership matches on the same day. You wouldn't even know what was going on in London at the time. So it was a much easier feel and vibe to go around the city and enjoy the atmosphere. Anyway,
And
Bills Vikings.
I think that's a very, very fair point. And to end this segment with one sentence, I wonder, is there any other cities in Europe like that where you can just get around easily and there's a couple of stadiums within a 3 or 4 mile radius, kilometer radius, like an hour from London. Anyway, that's a different talk for another day. Thanks so much for listening to this German segment of the podcast, Viel Spaß, and we look forward to going to Frankfurt and potentially Munich next year. Okay, welcome in everyone to the Irish NFL show. We need to talk about this Bills-Vikings game. My God, we were treated to some great games yesterday. Vikings coming out in top 33-30 in overtime. So many different factors. I'll talk about Justin Jefferson. I mean, probably one of the best games you're ever going to see from somebody in his position. The catch that he made on third down, the 32-yard catch on, was it 4th and 16 or 4th and 18? It was probably one of the best catches I've seen. Do you know what? I'll go out and say it. It's the best catch I've ever seen. Unbelievable. And he is the best player in the league, hands down, at the moment. I think the bigger question, Colin, is how far can this Vikings team go? They're in the NFC with an Eagles team that's undefeated. Kirk Cousins looks motivated. You like that. And they're, 8-1 going into week 11? I mean, they're guaranteed top 3, top 4 surely in the NFC, because I can't see a team going near them now. And they're going to win they should win their divisional title. You've picked a good time to go to Minnesota for Thanksgiving, haven't you?
I have, because this Vikings team are for real. I'm not that surprised. I thought they would win. That some of that was off the back of obviously speculation as to whether Josh Allen would play, but there's been an awful lot of doubts about this Vikings team. But we saw them in London, and what was so impressive was Jefferson. You've called it, like, that catch was just exceptional. But how he has grown and matured as a player, and how much he has reflected on it, and how much Kevin O'Connell, first-year head coach, first-time head coach, for everyone who says that head coaches need time, Kevin O'Connell, first time, and just how they have responded to him. And the Bills have work to do, because they in the second half over the past 3 games, they have been terrible, and they need to get that rectified. Now, they were missing guys yesterday. We're missing their top 2 quarterbacks. That is a huge issue, and they are really, really injured in the secondary. They need to hope that they can get those guys back. That they obviously were there or thereabouts. But to me, I suppose, looking at it for the Vikings were on the road, and it wasn't just the victory, but it was the manner of it. They, like last year and years previous, they would have dropped their heads, right? They, on the stop against Dalvin Cook, the Bills had 12 men on the field. The refs missed that. Gabe Davis did not catch the football. That's another thing that goes against you. It's very easy, and it happens all the time, that because players are superstitious creatures, and they think, oh, it's just not our day. It's just not our day. And very often the Vikings would have felt like that, but they didn't. And Patrick Peterson, who had missed the tackle, as the Cardinals fans enjoyed pointing out early on in the game, well, he had quite the ending to the game, came up big for the Vikings. For them, yeah, they're going to win their division. It's how deep can they go. Playoff games generally played under lights, and, well, we know what happens to Kirky Cousins when the lights come on.
I look forward to Brian getting through the next 90 seconds without mentioning Odell Beckham Jr., because there's no need to. Brian, go for it.
Right, on this game, Bills up 27-10, have an opportunity to kick a field goal to cement the game, essentially, on this side. In their wisdom, they'll go for 4th down, and they get intercepted. Turning point in the game. A number of crazy moments in the game that haven't even called out. I would suggest we've seen another miracle of the Meadowlands for people in the back who know the NFL in the 70s. You've got a quarterback essentially has to take one play to close out a game, who the clock stopped after the failed fourth down, which for me is like Marshawn Lynch not getting the ball in the Super Bowl. You're 1 yard out and you don't give the ball to Dalvin Cook. Instead, you ask Kirk Cousins, who's fumbled twice in the game, been intercepted twice in the game, had 20 incomplete passes in the game, to find their way in from 4th and goal. We called the play in the pub last night watching that. If he goes for it, they're not going to get in. I think Ollie Hunter was beside me at the time and he said he's not going to get in on a sneak. And then they've one play essentially to win the game. And by all accounts, on the sideline, him and Mitch Morse, the centre, didn't even have a conversation, nor did they even practice snaps on the sideline for that minute while the game wasn't on. They just went straight in. And we're getting critical of Josh Allen because the fourth quarter of the Packers game, needless interceptions against the Jets. Colin was called a poor play in the second half, but he's predominantly been the reason for the poor play. He's doing needless interceptions, and they do have a lot of work to do. And let's be fair, like the Dolphins in this division, and in fairness, the Jets and the Patriots, it's a very competitive division with teams all winning records. It's not a slam dunk now. The Chiefs are now in number 1 seed position, and we're going into the kind of the latter stage of the season now. So the Bills have had 2 difficult defeats in the last 2 weeks. For the Vikings, yeah, it's a fantastic win. And like, it's everything we see. I touched on it with Colin last week, watching the video of Kevin O'Connell in the locker room with all the players and Kirk Cousins getting the rousing reception from the players. So they're very much all bought into what he's doing there, which is fantastic to see. Because having had him on the show, I think we'd all agree that he was a really great guy to engage with, and it's reflective in how the players are playing for him at this stage of the season.
So, Michael, Superman wears Justin Jefferson underpants. It wasn't just the catch on 4th and 18. It was 9 out of 10 catches for 193 yards, but 8 of them being 50-50, or in fact, less than 50-50 balls. He was unstoppable, undeniable, irrepressible, whichever you like. He was all of them and one. 17 points must be the new 2-point lead. It used to be said the most dangerous lead in the NFL is 2 points because 1 field goal and you're behind. But 17 points between the Ravens, between the Raiders, and now the Bills are catching it doesn't seem to be enough to hold on to a game. The Bills, look, they're still a really great team. They're going to be there or thereabouts. They're going to be very dangerous the rest of the year. But let's not sugarcoat it. Since week 6, they haven't scored a touchdown in the second half of the game at all. Like yesterday, 6 points, 2 field goals, and 1 was just to send it to overtime with, again, just like the Packers game that Brian alluded to, 2 red zone interceptions by Josh Allen. So bad plays at the wrong time. And let's not sugarcoat it. They're 3rd in the AFC East at the moment. At the moment, they occupy the 6th seed. I mean, of course, they have opportunities within the division to rectify that. But currently, as things stand, they sit behind the Dolphins and behind the Jets. They are developments they did not want to occur. I put it on the page during the game yesterday, remarkably, these 2 teams in their combined history are 0-8 in Super Bowls. But if you could guarantee me right here and now, Arizona in February is going to have these 2 teams representing the AFC and the NFC to give us a rematch of that game, I think everyone would be very, very happy. And neutral fans would be very, very happy in a general sense. Looking forward to great entertainment ahead. But it's about the catch, 4th and 18, and it's about the fumble. Brian said it really well. It is Miracle at the Meadowlands. Even, at least in Miracle from the Meadowlands, they were trying to run a play. This is before teams started to kneel on the ball. There has never been as devastating an offensive play which has caused more loss in terms of win percentage in the history of the NFL since that started tracking. It was disastrous. The emotional swings Bills and Vikings fans went through, even in those couple of minutes, let alone the whole game, are probably enough to last you a lifetime. But I'll leave you on the catch, Michael. One last thing. It's not Odell Beckham. It was a cross between OBJ's catch and David Tyree's helmet catch. In terms of
that was more lucky though than skill. The helmet catch. I mean, it wouldn't have been
probably. We don't need to talk too much about that, but that's the cross I saw someone compare it to, and I thought, yeah, it's a pretty good one. It's pretty good.
2 joint catches, shall we say?
Yeah. Can we just take 1 second to reflect on the smile that crossed Brian O'Leary's face when Mark talked about the Vikings making the Super Bowl rather than the Eagles?
I think for us lads, I think we have to stay neutral and we have to stay very optimistic. To all 32 franchises in the NFL, there'll be some crack if the Buffalo Bills and the Minnesota Vikings get to the Super Bowl, because we probably won't if that happens. Let's be clear, unless anyone's got up at 10 grand spare, because I haven't. Okay, let's jump into the next game in this segment, and we'll look at the Miami Dolphins, who, quite frankly, at -3.5 on the spread in favour of last week. Going up against the Browns was no harm, printing money. 39-17. For me, lads, this is the Tua game. This is if you ever wanted to have a game where you could see Tua for all he was, it was this game. It's like, take outside Tyreek Hill and look at Jalen Waddle. 4 catches, 66 yards. Sherfield, the dynamic offense. I genuinely am starting to feel how I felt about this Chargers team, about Tua and this offense going into the offseason. If the Dolphins make it to the wild card, I have the Dolphins going to the AFC Championship game. I think on their day, they're the best offense in football as it stands at the minute. Tua is too dynamic. They've got too many weapons. I genuinely think if they can somehow score about 45 points a game and the defense can hold teams down at 39, they'll be grand. That's probably what will get them. But Colin, the Browns were shocking yesterday. Absolutely shocking. And we're getting very close to Deshaun Watson time. And I, for one, can't wait to watch a quarterback that hasn't played for 2.5 years. I think it's going to be hilarious.
Well, look, it's all about the Dolphins, and they are the most electric certainly offense, and every single time they line up, I am fascinated. It was watching them yesterday going, what are they going to do? Is it going to be run? Is it going to be pass? How's it going to be? It is absolutely incredible. Again, first time head coach, Mike McDaniel, showing that you don't need years and years of experience. You just need to be an offensive genius, which he is. Yeah, Tua is playing fantastically well. Tyreek Hill he makes such a difference on the field. When you compare the rate in which the teams are playing zone to man, right? And you look at the Dolphins this year and you look at the Chiefs this year, and the difference is Tyreek Hill. And playing zone plays into Tua's skill set, because it's all about timing, which is what it is. He doesn't have the biggest arm in the world. That's fine. He doesn't need to. And look, this is where, when you have a QB on a rookie on a cost control contract, you can take advantage of it. Hello, Denver. This is the reality of it. And kudos to the Dolphins. They've gone all in, and I get why they have gone all in. They've seen the opportunity. Look, if it's about, I suppose, keeping guys fit, that's going to be the big piece for them. But Wilson has come across from the 49ers, and he knows McDaniel's system. That's a huge upgrade. They now have two running backs who are electric. They have, obviously, their 2 wide receivers who are phenomenal, and I cannot wait to continue to watch what they do on offense every single week, because defenses are equally as befuddled. They don't know what exactly the Dolphins are going to do. The defense is probably the one Achilles heel for them. Can they score enough points every week? But my goodness, they are the most entertaining team in the league.
I suppose what's more impressive for me yesterday is the run factor, because we've been lauding all the plaudits to it, and you call it Tyreek Hill, rightly so. He's such a nightmare cover situation, and he only had 53 yards yesterday and 1 touchdown, I believe. But yeah, we touched on it in the preview to this game. It's the factor of they're so focused on him, it allows Waddle and other players to contribute heavily on the team. But they had 170 yards rushing yesterday. I thought the Browns defense would have put up a better performance, but didn't materialise. They played the Steelers, the Lions, the Bears, and now the Browns defense over the past 4 games. So I'm still kind of conscious to see how they are when they go up against the 49ers in a couple of weeks and other better teams throughout the course of the season, if they can shut them down. Right now it doesn't look like any team can, but the offensive line is playing really well, which is a key to this success, because Tua was only sacked once yesterday. If he gets the time, 285, 3 touchdowns, it's a difficult situation. I think defensively is the question mark. That's supposed to be where the season will be won or lost for this team.
Yeah, I mean, It's funny. I was looking at some of the stats on top performers and of the year. Running back is kind of how you expect. Barkley, Chubb, Henry are there. Wide receivers, it's Jefferson, Diggs. Hill's actually top of the pile. I'll come back to him in a second. And then you go to the quarterbacks. And by most metrics, actually the top three are, well, at least until yesterday, Geno Smith, Tua, and Jalen Hurts. Just like we all thought it would be in the scenario. So a lot of the metrics are favoring them. Mahomes obviously is up there as well. But when it comes to Hill, with Hill and Mixon, I always kind of have this little bit of a warning flag of I'm going to take the Peter King line and assessing Hall of Fame and just focus on what they do on the field, because in terms of off the field behaviors in the past, shouldn't be forgotten, but isn't really necessary for us to talk about here. What he's done on the field, he's been the offensive player of the year so far. I mean, we're just lauding Jefferson. He has 100 more yards than him. He has been the difference between a good Miami offense and an amazing Miami offense. And the fact that he's still putting up that yardage with extra attention being paid, the fact that Jalen Waddle is top 5, I think, in yards as well, because of the attention that Hill takes away from him, and therefore they make this double threat, is unbelievable. Fully agree with Colin. Jeff Wilson, fantastic addition. You saw how hard he's run. He had plenty of life and knows Mike McDaniel. It's all sinking. And for Dolphin fans, it must feel great. The top of the division, we're a world away from the concussion crisis and the should they have pulled him and how terrible is this that threatened to overshadow their season, and certainly Mike McDaniel in the first few games of him. Again, a first-time head coach, Colin. So your analogy earlier applies. And let's have just a moment for that AFC East division. As today stands, all 4 teams, including Michael, the New England Patriots, are currently in the playoff spots. Patriots bringing up the rear in the 7th and final wildcard. I don't expect them to stay there. Let's just be really clear. I think they're going to kick.
You made a very interesting point there. I mean, you can't go back there and say, I mean, as of right now, I mean, if your ma was your dad, that could be your sister. You know what I mean?
Thanks. Right. It's kind of like you going on about Denver's 3-0 start last season. Bit pointless. Anyway, my point is that this division as a whole, Michael, is all above 500 and is doing very well, and the Dolphins are top of the pile. But it also means the divisional games to come. Dolphins playing the Bills again. Bills-Jets. Jets-Patriots next week. They all have massive playoff implications, and you'll have other teams looking in like the Bengals and Ravens. Both of them are going to be vying for a wild card because one of them is going to win the division. They'll be very interested in who knocks who out in the AFC East. But Dolphins top of the pile. And like you say, if your ma was your dad, they want to stay there for the next few games.
If your ma was your dad. I've been very impressed with all 4 teams in that division this year. Obviously, the Jets made a step up. Patriots done really, really well with Zappity. And quite frankly, what Bill Belichick is doing with that team is stunning. So fair play. Right, let's jump on the Colts. Sweet Jesus, where do we start here? Jeff Saturday, who had no experience in college coaching, beat the Las Vegas Raiders last night. Frankly, it's shambolic in Las Vegas. Derek Carr crying. How they're bottom of the AFC West column with how the Broncos are playing is inexcusable. Does Josh McDaniels last 7 days as Brian flicks around with his piece of paper for the people on the podcast? Actually quite soothing, Brian, at this time of the night. Colin, does Josh McDaniels survive next week? Does he survive today? It's actually the title of this YouTube video to try and get clicks. Will Josh McDaniels be fired by the Las Vegas Raiders? Tell me. I'm going to say yes. Yeah.
Well, Mark Davis says no. Mark Davis says Josh is doing a, quote, fantastic job. Literally what he said within the last hour. And yeah, you can take that with a grain of salt. But Tashan Reed, who joined us, who covers the Raiders, had a piece basically saying that Derek Carr is going to be the fall guy for this, and they will put it all on him. We had talked about it before that the Carr extension will only ever 1 year, and I don't know if things continue as they are for the Raiders. You imagine they have to do something. But look, can I also point out that Jim Irsay did Frank Reich dirty? Absolutely ridiculous.
And Matt Ryan as well.
Oh no. He dropped. But what was the point of dropping Matt Ryan? Why did he force Frank Reich to drop him? They bring in the young guy. He tells Reich he can't go back to Matt Ryan. Then he fires him. Then he allows Jeff Saturday to go back. Matt Ryan is the best QB on that roster for all his faults. And obviously yesterday he had the 39-yard scramble, which was quite amazing. If you haven't seen it set to Celine Dion's Titanic theme, it is worthwhile. But yeah, the Raiders are a shambles. Brian and I had touched on this last week. 5 of their last 6 first-round picks have been released. And the biggest problem for the Raiders is this isn't a young team because of that, because they've released so many guys. This is a team where they're paying decent money, right? They have a QB that they're paying decent money to. They have 3 pass catchers that they're paying big money to their tight end, enormous money to their Devonta Adams. I don't know where the Raiders go from here, but I certainly know that the Broncos and the Raiders going up against each other next weekend, it's essentially the 2 head coaches who graduated from Clown College.
Brian, any given Saturday, my friend?
Boom. Any given Saturday. Yeah, interesting.
Shakalaka.
No, I like it, Michael. I did say, me and Colin did the preview this weekend. I said, and Colin, I think totally agreed with the time, the best chance for the Colts to win this game is to play Matt Ryan. And we actually didn't think at that time it was viable because, like Colin has alluded to, and Colin texted me yesterday about it, we didn't believe that Matt Ryan was an option because the owner was so, to the line that he's not going to play for the remainder of the season. He comes back in, and the offense. I wanted to really read up on this game today. They said the Colts offense, they slimmed down the offensive playbook yesterday to be more beneficial to help Matt Ryan because of their conscious of his age, and the offensive line who struggled throughout the course of the season and played reasonably well yesterday, which allowed them. I still think Saturday at times pulled some crazy stunts. He went for 2-point conversions twice as opposed to taking 2 extra points, which were gimmies. They won by 5. The Raiders had the ball at the end to potentially win the game. They should have been up by 7, and the game in all likelihood would have went to overtime. So, but look, he's learning on the fly. But there's a lot of narratives out there that he leaned on a lot of people this week to help him get over the line. As for the Raiders, I mean, when are the players going to become accountable? Is Derek Carr the only one that's going to become accountable for this situation? Because, as you said, there's a lot of experienced players there that don't seem to be stepping up. But yeah, I've seen this statement that's come out stating Josh McDaniels isn't going to be the guy. I mean, where did he go from here if they fire him now? Like Sean Payton's not.
Josh goes back to New England. It's like the circle.
Well, he could go wherever he wants. If he wants to, he probably will go back to New England. But it's more about who would go in there and improve them. I think you just have to lick your wounds, let the season go by, and start again next season. But it is a bit of a mess, and I think the players it's about time the players start performing and getting themselves over the line, because they've 6 games this season they've lost within 1 score. Like, I'm not saying, as you said, if you're manager that, but like, they are playing quite well in games. They're in a position to win numerous games on the last drive, and they can't get it done. So at some stage that has to turn. Maybe it'll be next Sunday in Mile High, potentially.
Yeah, Michael, New England only has the 2 offensive coordinators, so if McDaniels came back, 3 offensive coordinators is really what's needed, just to confuse it even more.
Yeah, but like, I'm sure Bill will find a way. Mark, look, my question is, what happened? What happened to Raiders?
Jeez, Michael, I think we're going to need a long list on that one. I mean, effectively, bear in mind, Ziegler and McDaniels have gone in. They've taken over a playoff team. They were a bit unlikely to make it to the playoffs there. Had rallied around Biscotti as an interim coach, or Bizima, sorry, as an interim coach. And they seem to have all the talent. Even like 2 weeks ago, I was saying, hey, looking at their schedule, they are probably primed to go on a run. They should be able to go on a run here and potentially get back into contention. And they've promptly lost 2 games that they should have won. They've lost by when they've been up 17 points. There is something fundamentally broken. Look, I'm the one that often says, hey, ownership matters. The players matter, but ownership matters and coaching matters. And that's where, yes, Bill Belichick or a John Harbaugh or Mike Shanahan can make all the difference. They can actually out-coach. What was the famous Buddy Ryan line? Is like talking about Don Shula. He can beat you with his, and then he could take yours and beat you with yours against his. That's the differentiation they should make. And to have an example here where I mean, we're not just talking about a rookie head coach. We're talking about someone with no coaching experience whatsoever, has gone in and won a game against Josh McDaniels. Of course, he's leaned on his staff, and I don't mean to do any disrespect for a talented bunch of coordinators and assistant coaches who probably had their pride impacted by Jim Irsay's comments and letting Frank Wright go and bringing in Jeff Saturday. They've banded together. It takes a village, and they've pulled together a game plan to beat the Raiders. But Josh McDaniels should hold his head in shame forevermore. I mean, bearing in mind some of the narrative behind Jeff Saturday as well, Bill Cowher saying it's a disgrace to the entire coaching profession. Joe Thomas kind of pointedly said it's a bit terrible when Jim Irsay is appointing his drinking buddy. And given Jim Irsay's past in terms of DUI offences and the like, that is a bit of an interesting choice of words. Jeff Saturday's defense. I've never had a drink with Jim. I don't even know if he drinks. Kind of missed the point a little bit, Jeff, I think. But it's a thundering disgrace. And Michael, there's a long list. They made all the right moves in free agency, it seemed, in terms of bringing in Devontae Adams, in terms of shoring up that defensive line, in terms of giving other options outside of Crosby, in terms of pass rush, for example. But it's been an abject disaster. And is there a team that's had a worse season thus far than the Raiders? I struggle. We didn't expect much from the Texans. They've got a worse record, but we didn't expect much. Lions are still showing shoots of recovery. In terms of expectation to delivery, they are pathetic.
I think the decision to give Jeff Saturday a job is an absolute disgrace. It's actually embarrassing. And you look at many rules, in terms of the Rooney Rule and many different other factors, I think it's embarrassing. And I can't wait to hear the fallout of this at the end of the season. I think it's an actual joke. Congrats for him for winning last night, but I think it's an absolute disgrace. Let's jump on to the Green Bay Packers game. Green Bay Packers defeated the Dallas Cowboys on Sunday. Massive. Brian, you'd like to make a quick point?
Sorry, guys. I know you're jumping onto this game.
No, it's fine. It's 100%.
Once if Saturday, they're not going to run the table. Once if he goes on a run, once if they all keep rallying behind him.
It's a complete joke. It's like asking somebody with 6 months university experience to become a doctor.
I understand that, but if they win 6 or 7 games and they sneak into a 7-spot wildcard, I know it's against everyone's possibility now.
And go one and done. I mean, what's the point?
I'm just saying. Okay, if the team play and perform for him and they win, does it matter? Does he the right guy?
Yeah, but it's not Ted Lasso. Like, I mean, you can't just.
Well, he's 1-0 so far. He's going to beat the Eagles on Sunday. So, do you know what? Actually, do you know what? I am saying it now at 9:46 p.m. on Monday. If you pick the Raiders against the Eagles, I am off this broadcast. Colts, Michael. Colts.
Sorry, if you pick the Colts over the Eagles,
I said the Colts would beat the Chiefs when everybody thought I was bonkers, and I was right. I'll be right.
I know, but like it's different when you've Jeff Saturday in there. I am not producing anything. And I'm just going to go away for the weekend.
Any given Saturday, Michael. Any given Saturday, you called it.
Oh, sweet. Jesus Christ. Right, I'll tell you what. If you do pick them, you're not allowed on Monday if they lose.
So grand have a night off, so.
Jesus. I'll tell you what. Whoever loses this is not allowed on next Monday. Right. Talk about that during the week. Let's jump into the Packers. Big day for the Packers, obviously getting the win towards the end of the game. The German red zone cut off at the end, so thanks very much everybody for missing the end of that game. Colmar and Rogers, 3 touchdowns, obviously the big play to Christian Watson on that large pass, but 3 touchdowns to Christian Watson. On the other side of the ball, Dak Prescott, not consistent, 2 interceptions, and frankly the Packers get it done and shut a lot of people, including myself, up. I thought the Cowboys would run away with this, and they have injected some life into what could be an interesting season for them. But in terms of a trash NFC, with some teams, they may have a situation where they can make a run for a wild card here.
Yeah, I thought the Cowboys didn't help themselves on defense. So we talked certainly more than a month ago where I said the Cowboys just play Michael Parsons as an edge rusher. Just let him rush the passer. He is incredible at it. He wrecks games. He that's his best. That's where he can be his most disruptive. And so what did they do last night? They moved him back to an inside linebacker. Fantastic. Well done to the Cowboys, proving once and for all that you will do anything to undermine your own success. probably the most disruptive defensive player in the league this season. And they went and they took him out. That certainly had an impact, but no, kudos to the Packers. Aaron Rodgers is a strange one because we still don't know. Like, at times he makes these incredible throws that remind you of the past couple of seasons where he played at the MVP level, and at other times, like the end where he doesn't like the call, instead of audibling out of it, he just runs it, and then he gets to go over to Matt LaFleur and scream and roar at him. So it's got to be weird if you're a Packers player and you're watching this play out. I mean, Rodgers knows enough football. He's good enough. He could audible out of that. There is no reason, if he doesn't like the call or he sees a better option, he could absolutely audible out of that. But he chooses not to, and he chooses not to do it kind of time and time again. And we've seen that at other times this season where he's just chucked the ball up kind of because he wanted to make a point. For the Packers fans who went over, I know there was a contingent from the UK and Irish Packers fans group. They will certainly have enjoyed their day because, come from behind win over the Cowboys is always nice. And when your rookie wide receiver gets himself 3 touchdowns, happy days. For the Cowboys, they have to figure out both the offensive side of the ball and the defensive side of the ball. It certainly doesn't do them any favors. And obviously, the Eagles and the Giants in that division, the Cowboys will look around the NFC and say, we can still make it, but it is a disappointing loss given the position that they did find themselves in.
Colin, you called it about a month ago. The Packers need to go back to a manner in offense which allows them to run the ball, and they went up against it, which for Cowboys' weakest spot defensively is trying to stop the run. And like Aaron Jones yesterday had 138 yards. I can't recall what AJ Dillon had, but he wasn't far behind. They finally kind of ran a balanced offense, which would allow them to get in position to try to play as deep down the field to Watson, and he's finally had his breakout game. The Cowboys in the fourth quarter really disappointed me. Like, they were 14 points up and going into this fourth quarter. I'm not necessarily in the game away, but they had 14 plays and they had 3 first downs in the fourth quarter. They were non-existent. And then in overtime, and there's been a lot of controversy today whether they should have kicked the field goal and put the Packers in a position to go down the field and try level it or win the field, win the game. But McCarthy said that he said from the opening play on that drive, he said to Kellen Moore, get the playbook ready because we're not going for a field goal on this drive. We're going to go for it on fourth down. But it was a gamble, and because once you get it, you're leaving Rodgers essentially probably eating 25 yards to get into position for Crosby to kick a field goal. It's a big win for the Packers. For the Cowboys, and I'm not saying this because I'm a Giants fan. I'm looking ahead this weekend. They're away to the Vikings, and we've lauded up the Vikings. Right now the Cowboys are favourites for that game in Minnesota. I've absolutely no idea where that is. But if they were to lose that game next weekend, like they then fall back into a situation where they're dropping down the pecking order, like the 7th seed in the wild card in the NFC's 4 losses, which is the 49ers. That could flip if they win their coming game because the Seahawks are on a bye, but still essentially it's 4 games. Then the Cowboys could drop down to 4 losses. It's a precarious one for the Cowboys. It's a big loss, to be honest. Like, the Packers haven't been firing on all cylinders at all this season, but they had 415 yards yesterday of offense.
Yeah, look, it boils down to the running game. We were talking about it at the start of the show with the Bucks. If the Bucks running game opens up, it opens up the passing game. The Packers are the exact same. The running game was back to normal working order, 200 yards, plus 200 yards on the ground. And that opens up Aaron Rodgers and opportunities, and Watson's breakout game, be damned, it was more that Aaron Rodgers had a bit of time to throw the ball. Did he win the game single-handedly? No. Look at it. He threw the ball 20 times, only 14 completions. It's not like this was a dominant performance in the passing game. But when it really matters is the fourth quarter. And for once, and the first time in about 6 or 7 weeks, the Green Bay Packers stood up at the critical times of the game. And, of course, the Dallas Cowboys did not, which is why the Packers won the game and they didn't. Shocking result in many respects. So I think with the form that the Packers have been on in particular, a lot of people were leaning on the Cowboys, and certainly when it went into the fourth quarter, given the performances last while, given the horror show last week against the Lions with 3 interceptions and only getting 9 points on the board, you would have doubted their ability to come back. But maybe, we can't write off the Packers, especially with how bad the NFC has been. Yes, the division's probably out of the reach with the Vikings moving to 8-1, but a wild card, still options there. Brian just said the 49ers sit there at 5-4. Commanders are in 8th spot in the division in 4-5. So again, talking about division in the top phases, that's 4 out of the top 8 for the NFC East. So they could go on a run. They could make a wild card run, but they got, one swallow does not make a summer, as I'm fond of saying. So let's see more consistency in that regard.
I have never heard of that saying in my life. Never. The Niners it's a nice saying. It's a lovely saying. The Niners beat the Chargers last night on Sunday Night Football. I was watching it in the queue for baggage this morning in 40 minutes. Thanks, Aer Lingus. Love Aer Lingus. Great reputable company. Playing in Mexico next week. Call them Vamo Mexico. I think that's why you're wearing that jacket, I think. For next, the big Mexico game next week. Are you going? Because we missed the press accreditation cutoff for it.
I will be in the Great White North rather than down in Mexico. I wish I was going. Well, look, there's the Euro Millions tomorrow night, so you never know.
Tuesday
Never know.
Night, €3 to enter. The one thing I will say on this game column is it was just the defense. That Niners defense with Nick Bosa leading the way. Talano, I can't pronounce this guy's name. Hufanga is a beast, making a huge play at the end. And they got to Justin Herbert. They stifled the game. McCaffrey getting the late score as well. And going 5-4. And frankly, I can't see how. I genuinely think they're going to win the NFC West. I think we've seen the best of Seattle this year. I don't think Brian gets the 9 wins.
He might get the 9 wins, but the 49ers could potentially still win the division, but it won't be because of James Garoppolo, who is despite not throwing a touchdown, his team won again. They're 10-2 when Jimmy doesn't throw a touchdown. Teams that Jimmy play, unbelievable. Has any QB ever been carried like Jimmy G? I don't believe they have. Look, this is a game. The Chargers have real issues. They have can't run the ball. They have no deep threat. Teams just know how to play against them. Plus, basically, what they have is Justin Herbert, who is incredible. So the 49ers decided to just deliberately and viciously assault him last night. Today, the 49ers crying about the guy getting ejected. What are you talking about? He puts up on Instagram a post, "Free me." I mean, come on. Ridiculous. Yes, we have seen awful roughing the passer calls in this league. But that was deliberate what they did there. The 49ers on the ground, and because of the defense, are going to be a problem. But for the poor old Chargers, they, like two of the other teams in the AFC West, may well be looking for a new head coach come the end of the season.
Yeah, Colin, you say free me. I was just, you killed my point there. I was going to say, yeah, free the Chargers of Brandon Staley, the fantastic head coach who knew it all, and he still knows it all. 16 points in the first half. Ryan adjusts the defense scoring for the 49ers. Adjusts to halftime defensively, and they don't give up a single point in the second half against this Chargers team that are going to be the most explosive offense in the league. They're just, as I said last week, they're share spoofers, and they won't be in the playoffs. 49ers were 2 for 5 in the red zone. If they were a little bit more accurate in the red zone, the game essentially would have been a lot more comfortable. It's a go in for Niners. I said to Colin today, it's a 27-17 type of game. 22-16 isn't too far off it. Played out exactly as I thought. Good win for 49ers. Chargers still have a lot of work to do.
I did have my prediction that the 49ers would represent the NFC in the Super Bowl at the start of the year, and I did maybe put a couple of Kubel opinion on that as well. I appreciate that was a bold take at the time. I've kind of oscillated between complete despair at such a stupid suggestion and the gleamings of hope that it might come true. And again, look at this win. if they win their division, won first home playoff game, I can see it's like I know I'm doing the Brian way of the Giants win the Super Bowl. That usually is when they're at 2-7, but there's always a way, there's always a path, and I can see a path. The Giants' path by May is probably better than the 49ers this season, so let me just be clear on that. But there's always hope. There's always hope. They've been playing better. They've won more games, so I'll give credit where credit's due.
Yeah, but the Giants still have to play the Eagles and the Cowboys again. Like, I mean, the Niners will beat the Cardinals. They'll beat the Seahawks, and they'll beat the Rams.
Well, I'll give you something controversial if we're going to mention the Eagles. You're probably relying upon the Cowboys or the Giants maybe in Week 17 to stop them going 16-0. The rest of their schedule is cupcakes.
I haven't gone unbeaten to 6. I haven't gone unbeaten to that point, which is going to be. I genuinely think we should have a live watch along for that Giants Eagles game.
Yeah, and sorry, I should have said 17-0 because we've got 17 games this season now.
And that would be the best ever then if that was to happen, wouldn't it? Technically.
Technically the best ever regular season performance. If.
Okay. If, and let's say let's keep it on that for a wee second and sort of drift along here as it is getting as it's getting a little bit late. Your boy's been up since 5 a.m. listening to Brian snoring. I'm joking. I wasn't even staying with Brian. I just wanted to see his reaction to that. Okay. Will we quickly touch on the Chiefs here?
Yeah. I think we have to. Patrick Mahomes is head and shoulders, I think, above anyone. I think for the MVP race, he is magical. He is. Who would you have?
Geno Smith or Daniel Jones? Jalen Hurts, Colin. Jalen Hurts. I'm the biggest Jalen Hurts fan on this podcast and have been since he entered the league. I think he's up there. But he's not playing at the level that Patrick Mahomes is playing. Jalen Hurts is an amazing leader, and the job that he's doing is absolutely fantastic. I have the Eagles going to the Super Bowl. I think they're capable of potentially winning the Super Bowl. But Patrick Mahomes makes the magical look mundane. We're that accustomed to what he's doing, and I am very interested to see if Kadarius Toney can keep this going. If he is now motivated, it will the kid has insane levels of ability. Like, he adjusts his gloves yesterday before he goes up and catches one. Like, that's how talented he is, that he can go and do that. We've seen it, but he's only ever shown it in flashes. Yesterday, he definitely flashed again. If the Chiefs have found, a real superstar in him, they could really go places. The biggest knock for me on the Chiefs is their lack of pass rush. Talked about it with the Seahawks. They have Chris Jones, and Chris Jones alone, that could be an issue when they get to the playoffs. But they, again, because of the fact that they've won the division so often, the strength of schedule hasn't been kind to them, but they still find ways to win. For everyone else in the AFC, the last thing you're going to want is to have to go to Arrowhead in January to win playoff games. That you don't want that. So right now, I think the Chiefs are the way they go about it, they're finding ways to win every week. They're not playing at their absolute best, but I think they are serious business. Brian, just to jump in very quickly, just to give my viewpoint on this performance, the most impressive thing for me wasn't just Mahomes yesterday, it was the fact that 9 different players received the ball at one point in the game for a combined total of, God, I don't know, GCSE leaving certain miles, over 200 and something yards. It was unbelievable. And that shows you the dynamic offense which is evolving by Tyreek Hill, and the Chiefs are going to be up there at the end of the season. We all know they're going to be, but they looked a lot more impressive yesterday than they have in certain weeks. That being said, the Jags still went to Arrowhead and put up 17 points, so Trevor Lawrence should be proud of himself, yeah?
No, Michael, because it was a comfortable win. They put up 17 points, but it was a comfortable win for the Chiefs. They're the most efficient team in the league right now for me. They didn't give up one penalty yesterday, offensively and defensively, interrupting tortured the game. I mean, you're watching NFL and there's flags galore in this league and they don't give up one penalty. Travis Etienne for the last 2 weeks. The game in London, he was explosive. The game last week against the Rays, he was explosive. He was explosive against the Giants. The week prior to that, he was held for 45 yards rushing yesterday against the Chiefs defence. And whilst the pass rush isn't there, they're certainly really strong against the run. And Mahomes, you're right. Like the variety of options he has, and he's 26 for 35, 341. It was, to me, like fair play to the Giants. They'll go in and they'll endeavour and put up a strong performance. But the Chiefs were never in danger for me yesterday. It was always going to be a win for the Chiefs.
Marcus, do you want to give your thoughts on this and then start off with some sort of quick fire? Is that what you want to do? Do you want to?
I mean, we can get to the quick fire. I mean, comfortable win for the Chiefs. Mahomes was different gravy. Great to see him spreading it around. I'm sure Brian was glad to see Kadarius Toney get his first ever NFL touchdown, albeit not in the blue of the New York Giants, but in the red of the Kansas City Chiefs. And yeah, the road still goes through Kansas City as far as I'm concerned, especially with the Bills' sputters, let's put it that way, at present.
Okay. We're going to quick fire some games. Colin, I think you're going to talk about the Giants beating the Texans. Am I correct there?
No, I am going to talk about the Titans beating the Broncos. Okay.
I'm joking. I'm just trying to be...
It's on the list. It's on the list.
I know, but I think we should talk about different teams that we support. I'm joking.
Okay, I will talk then about the Bears and the Lions. So I said on the show about 3 weeks ago that the best case scenario for the Bears was that Justin Fields continued to prove that he was a franchise QB despite the barbs that have been thrown at him on this podcast. He has continued to do that, but that the Bears would also continue to lose because they need better players to put around him. They have done that. The Bears need a lot of work, but they seem to have found their guy. He doesn't have a whole lot around him. He doesn't have a lot protecting him, and they don't have a lot on defense. For the Lions, it was about getting a road win. They needed it. They have needed to get things together because for too long it was all about hopes and dreams and vibes under Dan Campbell. They've got put back-to-back victories now. Can they continue to build on this? They were good in the second half of last season. Can they do the same in this?
Michael, I will do the Giants game, even though I'm a Giants fan. We're talking about Kadarius Toney and moving on to the Chiefs, and Giants fans are upset about potentially scoring his first touchdown. Giants took Lawrence Cager off the Jets practice squad last week. He goes and scores a touchdown. They took Isaiah Hodgkins off the Bills wide receiver practice squad. He goes and has 55 yards in his opening game for the Giants. Again, Brian Dable just finds ways with players to put them in position to make plays. And Daniel Jones had another good game yesterday. 6 games in a row without an interception, 170 yards. And it was a reasonably comfortable game. 7-2, no complaints.
170 yards passing.
170 yards passing, yeah.
Against the Texans.
Yeah.
What was the rushing total? Genuine. What was it?
Barkley went for about 118.
Oh, okay. Well, that's fine then.
Yeah.
That's a good performance from Daniel.
I'm just making the point that you're fine. Like, you don't have to have these star players in the league to be productive if you can get players in.
And that's what's made the Giants so good this season. Their productivity is up there.
Off the charts. Yeah. And they have the Lions next week, so it'll be interesting to see how that goes.
And as it stands now, Mr. Dable could go back in front of the coach of the year, in my opinion. It could be after Pete Carroll's poor performance yesterday. Was Pete in Munich? Or Munich?
Yeah, I saw an old man on the sideline, all right, yeah.
Mark, can I just go first very quickly? Because
go for it, Michael.
I think it's relevant. I have absolutely damn all to say about this game. About the Rams and the Cardinals. I mean, like, Colt McCoy going up against John Walford. What, Walford and EastEnders? Boys, I genuinely think if Sean McVay walks away at the end of the year and goes to Amazon, it's embarrassing. He should have walked away 6 months ago. There's talent there. It seems that there isn't a buy-in. It's a bit like Man United, for example. Too many big characters in certain positions and not enough coaching going on there. And maybe the Rams thought they were going to rock up this year with a poor Seattle team, a poor Arizona Cardinals team, and a San Francisco team that had a rookie quarterback that people weren't going to be aware of. They are way, way off. And to lose to the Cardinals and let 27 points go in is atrocious. For me, their season's over 3-6. I don't see them getting into the playoffs. And frankly, I picked them to go to the Super Bowl. I will jump on Mark's situation about the Niners. I think it'll be the Eagles against the Niners. in the NFC Championship game. So there you go. Colin, have we another game to talk about?
Well, Michael, if you won't let Colin talk about the Broncos,
this is going to be good.
I'll talk about the Broncos and Titans. But I mean, actually, on just before that, on the Rams, the one comment I saw a couple of weeks ago I thought was great is: do you think the day kicks off with a 4:30 meeting in the morning between Aaron Donald and Sean McVay discussing who regrets more unretiring, given the season they're both facing in this regard? I mean, not that they are both retired; that they didn't retire is more the point. But
did Aaron Donald invest in FTX though? More importantly, with his new contract?
I don't know, but Tom Brady. Well, Tom Brady was a face of FTX along with Giselle, so I'm sure they got paid in some way in shares, which are now meaningless. Broncos Titans. Broncos were coming off a bye. Not that you would necessarily recognize it. The defense continues to be not just great. I mean, like the best defense, performance-wise, stats-wise, in the NFL this season. And let's face it, they held the Titans to 17 points. They held Derrick Henry to 53 yards and 19 carries. And that was all without Justin Simmons, the couple-of-time Pro Bowler back in safety. And so the defense is holding up their part of the bargain. But the answer, yet again, continues to be that the offense is not doing their part of the bargain. 10 points in the second quarter, one big downfield pass. Seemed to be like, oh, maybe this is exciting. Up 10-0, 17 unanswered points to lose the game. In the second half, the only meaningful drive they had was at the end of the game. The punter is getting so much exercise, but the decline is what's terrifying. Sam Monson, our good friend, has been on the show many times at PFF, flagged the Russell Wilson last few years. Go back 4 years, he was first in qualifying out of qualifying QBs in terms of PFF grade. Year after that, he was fifth.
I thought you were going to say it's Formula One for a second there.
No. 3 years ago, he was fifth. Last year, he was 16th. Might excuse some of that because he was injured for a few games, wasn't playing well. This season, 32nd of 39 qualifying quarterbacks. That is a devastating decline. They couldn't get the ball completed on third down. They couldn't pick up conversions. 4th to 17. As I said, no sustained drives during that entire second half until the very end. It's the story of the offense. It has been constantly this season, and that is what, frankly, is holding them back. But that's what it was for the last 5 years. So if Russell Wilson isn't the answer, what is the answer? And how can they unlock the potential of what is a fantastic defense this year? Absolutely fantastic.
Brian, I believe you have a point to make on the Los Angeles Rams, the 3-6.
Oh, we're jumping back to the Rams. What I would say, like if they've no first round picks, it looks like the season is gone, and they're in a rebuild. Essentially, what's being quoted today. Do you think? And it's a genuine question for everybody. Do you think Jalen Ramsey and other players in that team are likely to want to stick around for a rebuild? I would say no. I'd say him in particular is the kind of guy that and we saw what he did in Jacksonville to get out of there. When things are going wrong, he'll be hitting the high road and getting out of LA. And Aaron Donald, he might want to, he's looking at retiring. But like I'm just saying, there's players there who bought into getting that Super Bowl ring, and we've quickly seen the drop off. If there's an opportunity to move on quickly, will they do it? I think they would. I think Jalen Ramsey could be the one who could be traded in the next offseason.
I mean, I guess the great thing is, they have rings. Tyrod Taylor has a ring. Jimmy Garoppolo has multiple rings. Trevor Siemian has a ring. So, I mean, I guess you can't put a price on the odd ring. Seen Seabass just Mark wearing his rings. Lovely guy, gentleman, great guy.
He's more than one as well, Michael. He's just wearing one of the many rings.
Yes, just wearing one of them now. Yeah, just in case he lost one of them. I know he's won multiple. Don't worry, I have put up with it for years. Let's jump on to Brian. You were saying that we have to talk about another game.
Well, yeah, the Steelers Saints was a really great game yesterday. I think it's worthy of mentioning.
Would you like
Kenny
to talk
Pickett.
about that for our listeners?
I was glad to see Kenny Pickett. I can't say I have too much to say in this game. I'll be brutally honest. I've put my hands up. I haven't gone and done enough analysis on
Where
this
were
game.
you, Brian? Were you in the press box in the Allianz Arena, or where were you at?
No, but I normally do my analysis on every game on a Monday, Michael. But
I'm
I travelled
joking.
back today, and I hadn't seen my children for a few days. I want to spend a bit of quality time with the family. There you go. So, yeah, say nice things, Michael.
Folks,
look, Kenny
I couldn't
Pickett,
find the man in the airport. I couldn't find
Sorry?
him. He had done a runner. I couldn't find him after the flight. So
So,
who knows
well,
where he
what, as you know, Michael, what happened in this game is Kenny Pickett won a game against Andy Dalton, and we've been up and down, and some people have been critical of Kenny Pickett on this show and whether he should be playing or not. And we spoke about how it's not likely to be a good season for the Steelers, you know, in terms of what the record would be, but we are seeing strides with his quarterback. Yesterday, he's a lot better with his, on the ground in terms of his rushing. And I know there's been ups and downs for him, but I think the Steelers in the long term understand, fans, that we've got a player here. We're not going to win a lot of games. We'll win games, you know, close games against teams that are probably at their level. And that's what we saw yesterday. The Saints are going in the wrong direction. I would say the Steelers are in a better position. At least they know who their quarterback is. Right now, we have no idea who's going to be the Saints quarterback further down the line.
we shall see. We shall see. Okay. Jesus, I'm looking forward to this. I really am. Monday Night Football is... I actually forgot there was a game tonight. The Eagles are hosting the Washington Commanders. Nearly said football team there. At Lincoln Financial Field. Game kicks off at 1:15 a.m. Ireland. So by the time you're listening to this podcast, this won't even be relevant. However, thank you for listening. Colin, I am taking the Philadelphia Eagles in this game only because I think their offense will be too much for this Washington team. And the reality is Jalen Hurts and the run game and the multiple wide receiver tight end core that he has, that he works so well dynamically together, they'll put up about 32 to 37 points. And Washington won't. And the Eagles will remain undefeated. Do you see any way in which Washington can win this game tonight, Colin?
Yeah, because anything can happen. I don't think they will, but could they? Absolutely. I've seen over the years plenty of big upsets, and I think it's unlikely. But maybe if you're looking for a reason, the players coalesce on the fact that their owner continues to be the most embarrassing owner. I mean, we can all talk about the Jeff Saturday stuff, but that's not the big story in the NFL. The NFL is absolutely delighted that story came up. The Washington Commanders are being investigated, and they tried to deflect attention by pointing to the fact that their rookie running back got shot, and they tried to use him as a deflective shield to save the owner and everyone that was involved in that statement. That's who's an embarrassment. That's who's a disgrace. That's who should hang their heads in shame. That's what should be talked about. It shouldn't be Dan Orlovsky saying that Justin Fields is part of the MVP conversation. No, he's not, Dan. No, he's not. That's just ridiculous.
He did not say that, did he?
He did say that.
Jesus Christ.
That's where we're at. We need more and more ridiculous takes. I like Dan Orlovsky, but that take is ridiculous. Can we just go back to Justin Fields is improving as a QB? Anyway, the Commanders, they cannot get a new owner quick enough. All the talk has been about potentially Jeff Bezos and Jay-Z buying it. Mark Cuban gave his seal of approval for that. I imagine the fact the league doesn't talk about the Commanders, they would very much like this to just get done and they can sweep it under the carpet. I feel sorry for some of the good people at the Commanders and obviously a lot of the fans, but the sooner Dan Schneider goes and is out of the league, the better for everybody.
Brian, a very, very relevant interruption here. So sorry for interrupting you before you picked Washington for 2 seconds. I just want to give a shout out to Michael McCullough, who has super chatted us £5 sterling. Michael, thank you very much for that. These boys can't spend that, so I'm going to spend it. I'm joking. Grab yourselves a coffee between you enjoying the show. Jeff Saturday for Coach. Michael, thanks a million. And folks, we really appreciate supporting YouTube. We're trying to build up a community on YouTube. It really means the world to us. So thank you very, very much. And Michael, sorry, we just seen that there now. So thanks a million, sir. And if you're ever up in Belfast, wherever you see me, a pint is happily on Brian, who will transfer me the money, and I'll get one for you. Brian, who's going to win tonight? Washington.
You're essentially going to give him his $5 back. Well, Colin's made very valid points about the Washington situation off the field, but I would say about what's happening on the field. Since the Bears game, they've been very competitive. They won 3 games in a row. Coach Rivera's got a reaction out of him, and he was very reactive in his press conference after the Bears game, where he was slamming the media for essentially saying he was trying to get rid of Carson Wentz and things like that. The players are rallied around them. We're loading the Vikings up. They nearly beat the Vikings last week. They lost their last second field goal against them. So look, do I see them winning the game? No. Do I think they can make it competitive? I do. Taylor Heineke had 2 really good games against the Eagles last year. Different season, but I think he's an upgrade on Carson Wentz, and I think they'll play well. They won't live with the Eagles offensively. In the end, the Eagles will find enough to win the game. So Eagles for me.
If this is week 4, you pick Washington. 100%.
I picked them the last time, but they didn't.
I know.
Turn up. But the defense has improved gradually throughout the course of the season. So can they? NFC East games are always a lot tighter than people believe. I think there's a scenario where the Washington could live with them for maybe a half.
What's the handicap, Brian?
10.5, Michael.
I'd take Eagles 16.5.
Yeah, well, bear in mind, this is a rematch because obviously they've already played each other once. The Eagles have already beaten them 24-8 when really it was the defense, I would say, with their entrance calling card to the league this year, roughing up Carson Wentz significantly, completely shutting down the Commanders in any way, shape, or form. And I agree with Brian. The Commanders have got better. They've got better on defense, certainly, over this little run. Taylor Heineke looks far more dramatic than and dynamic than Carson Wentz was, and they can definitely cause a bit of a stir. But look, to me, there were a couple of notable injuries actually over the weekend. Caleb Farley looks like he's done for the season for the Lions with a herniated disc, and he had injury concerns coming in this season. Zach Ertz looked like he's done for the Cards, obviously. And its injuries would be the thing that would worry me for the Eagles. At the moment, they've had a superbly functioning offense, a superbly functioning defense, team being very well marshaled, coached, and led, which is bringing it all together. So injuries, considering what they're facing for the rest of the season, might be their biggest concern, if we're being honest about it. I don't see the Commanders as a concern. I agree it's a divisional game. The Commanders will run it tighter, but the Eagles are at home. The Eagles are on not just a roll, let's be honest about it. They've been the class act of the NFL this season. You don't want to be the class act in November, though. You want to be the class act in January and February. So keeping that momentum going will be key. But for me, every which way but loose, they're going to keep the momentum going this evening and go to 9-0.
You're talking about the Eagles being on a roll, almost as good as a roll as a chicken fillet roll I had today at the Apple Green on the M50. I want to give a big shout out to them who made me feel right at home, and I genuinely cried in the car when I had it. I really missed food the last few days. I tell you what, if there was one bad thing about the last few days, it's been the food. Just for everyone watching this, because I know it's probably a very relevant point, we will be on at 9 o'clock next week. After the World Cup, I never thought I'd say this, but Jackie's Army, etc., etc. I think I'm nearly certain that the World Cup's on at 7, so that means we bang on at 9 as usual. So 100%. Looking forward to seeing what sort of nick everybody's in after who's playing at 7 o'clock next week. But sure, we'll all be grand. In terms of questions, Colin, I'm sure as the chief question selector or question spotter, we have some favourites. Just obviously, again, Colin, a big shout out to Michael there. And sorry, Michael, it's been up all day, etc., up all night in some cases, and only seen it after 7 minutes. But that it really means a lot, Colin. And is there anything you've seen there tonight from people asking questions?
Well, we always appreciate the comments, especially as we are trying to, I suppose, grow the community on YouTube. And I am very interested to see how Twitter does with the handling the World Cup and the NFL. Remember that the Twitter has barely coped in the past with a World Cup on its own. It now has to handle a World Cup and an NFL season at the same time. That is going to be very, very interesting, and Christmas. I think that the main question, you've seen some of the comments there. Stephen obviously feels that they could potentially, the Commanders have a chance, and Fred is wondering if Mike McCarthy has coached himself a contender for Coach of the Year. I can't imagine he was too many people's favorites. Even Jerry Jones, I don't think would have given him the vote. But I wonder, given the result yesterday, does Kevin O'Connell now take over from Dable as the slight favourite for that. And what of Nick Sirianni and the Eagles?
Interesting. Very, very, very interesting. I think if we get to the point where the Eagles are sitting 15-0 or something, or they get to Christmas Eve and they're still unbeaten, I think regardless of the result in that game, he has to be coach of the year to take a team to that many wins and to play in the way they have. I think I would say that would be the case. Very interesting on O'Connell. Sorry, I thought I heard something outside.
Sorry.
It's just very, very bad weather up here.
So I was going to say, Michael, it's fascinating, really. I mean, they're definitely 1, 2, and 3 in terms of the candidates, and you can argue about the order any day of the week, but it shows the disparity again as well. They're 3 NFC coaches. Like, all the AFC teams are beating each other up so much. Andy Reid's kind of like the perennial candidate, so it's not going to be him. Sean McDermott's won it recently and has lost a few games, so it's not going to be him. So it's likely to be one of those NFC coaches.
Mike McDaniel. If the Dolphins continue the way they're going,
if they win the division,
Colin, I said he was getting coach of the year on our preseason show. I said the Seahawks were going to win 9 games on the preseason show. I can't have everything. Come on.
I mean,
didn't you say the Seahawks were going to win 11 games, Brian?
Oh, no, 12 now. Yeah, as of yesterday.
Okay. I have a video to play tonight to end this show. Colin, I think Brian's seen this video. I know. Can you believe it, Mark? I actually found 3 seconds of my day to do something today. This is the guy that presents the NFL in Germany at a party on Saturday night for fans. Could you imagine Neil Reynolds doing this for a London game next year? Guys, see you later on in the week, yeah?
We're back live on Wednesday night.
Excellent. Viel Spaß.
Here we go. The hippie do the hip hopper. You don't stop to rock it to the bang, man. Boogie, see up, jump the boogie to the rhythm of a boogie beat. Now what you hear is not a test. We are rapping to the beat. It's me, the groove, and my friends. We're gonna try to move your feet. You see, I am Wonder Yan, and I like to say hello to the red, to the brown, the green, and the blue, the purple, and yellow. Bam, bam, the boogie to the boogie, see up, jump, the boogie to the bang, man, boogie. Let's rock! You don't stop! Keep it up! That body rock! Hey, München! Ganz ehrlich, eins will ich euch sagen. Bevor hier die Post abgeht und die beiden Superstars auf die Bühne kommen, ich liebe euch!